This is Whitley Strieber, and you're listening to My Alien Life.
Recording in progress.
I always feel I'm forgetting something here. It's brand new, it's video. I'm your host, Cameron Logan. Joining me again is my reoccurring guest and alien technical guru, Cassidae Lightwing. We're going to talk about some historical alien contact events in the context of what this Earthling thinks about tonight's events and what Cassidae thinks about the same thing, those events that marked our history. And tonight, Cass, I'm using you for my own amusement. Are you there?
I am, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, I hope you enjoy this mistreatment of you once again. We can go to they can look at our faces now.
Yep. And
I know. I'm 8 seconds behind on YouTube, aren't I? Or something like that. There's a delay.
It's usually between 8 and 12 seconds. So.
All right, something on your end is a little loud. It's maybe your beard against your mic.
Check.
Did you comb it?
I did.
You look good.
Thank you.
All right. So it's Thursday night in Montana and Colorado and almost everywhere else in the world. It's been a crazy day for me. Yeah. So last night we had some technical glitches and difficulties. Cass and his family are suffering right now. But you look good, man.
I tend to recover real fast. My family, not so much. They're still suffering with the COVIDs.
All right. Every time you talk, your mic is just scratching out. I'm not sure what that is.
All right. Check. How's that?
Yeah. Probably hold still, maybe. We'll work it out. All
right.
People get paid a lot of money for what we're doing right now. We're not getting paid.
Not yet.
We're just getting some enjoyment out of it.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Well, a lot of it for me. This is my dream job. Like I've told you guys before, I mean, this is what I want to do essentially with my life, is talk to people, you know? So enjoyment really is the most important thing. As Stephen King said, if you write your artwork for you, the rest will follow. But if you try to write in to chase a paycheck, you know, it's never going to happen. You know, that's the way art is.
It's unfortunate.
I agree.
I mean, I guess it would be nice if everybody could make money doing art. You know, I consider this art.
Yeah, I do too. But that's why we made Bleeding Violin Studios, is specifically to introduce a new kind of way of doing this so that everybody can be heard. You know, the Love and Light crowd talk about Nisara a lot, and that's basically what we're trying to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what I want to do right now, and while we're getting the ball rolling, is to share this show. And I'm looking on here. I can stream. There's a stream URL link. When I paste that to Facebook, it doesn't look good. But and there's also a backup server URL. I don't know what that is, but I guess I might have to go into YouTube itself and find myself.
Well,
I don't know if there's a better way.
What I
Anyway,
would do.
That's what I'm going to do.
Yes.
Yeah, it shows that I'm live and we're live there, and so bear with me. I'm gonna have to click on it really quick. We'll probably hear some feedback like that, and I'm gonna copy that. Okay, all right. So yeah, man, I don't know what it's like in your nape of the neck part of the world, but in Montana it was miserable tonight. I just had the most horrible time. Literally, I started out at 4:30 and got home about 20 minutes ago. And, that was like a 30-mile drive. And one head-on collision and one rollover happened right in front of me, which was ridiculous. Just remind people, match your driving to the conditions out there, because it's just shit. What's it like in in Colorado.
Drizzly and nasty and full of snow and yeah, lots of crazies out there. And I'm not trying to call anybody crazy, but we all know those kinds of nights. It's like a perpetual full moon here in Denver right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Is it warmer though? I mean, it's
Oh yeah.
supposed to be overnight here, like it's 6 degrees, but I was thinking it was a little bit warmer there.
Yeah. Colorado tends to forget that it's, or rather Denver rather, tends to forget that it's winter until spring. So it's a nice balmy 34 right now. That's Fahrenheit for you guys in Europe.
We're two young guys talking about the weather.
There's a song cue here.
We're not supposed to do that until are we supposed to do that? Maybe when we're in our mid 70s. What I'm doing though is trying to kill time here just for a minute while I'm sending some links out for this show because it's live. Right. Thanks for everybody who's joining us, but I realize that not everybody's going to get on board here real quick because we're like a day late.
Yeah.
1 day and 43 minutes. Mr. Lightwing yesterday had some technical issues, and you could go into that a little bit. So you were banging away at it wasn't a laptop, it was your main PC.
Yeah. I do the show from the Arc computer. That way we can get it all looking really nice. And basically we had a power surge and it blew out the OS. So we had to reinstall Windows, and it took until about 5 a.m. But
no kidding. Wow.
No. And special thanks and shout out to my wife, Shannon, and Jake, who stayed up doing it. While I mostly paced around fretting.
Right.
But they're the ones that actually fixed it.
Okay. If people want to comment on this show, please do. Even if it's not live, please comment. I don't see anybody listening right now because we just surprised everybody. And unfortunately, we probably lose a lot of viewers when we say we're going to do a show and we don't. But
yeah.
That's not really how we roll, but sometimes it's how we roll.
Dude, you got to, man.
I know. We aren't doing this for a living again. We're doing it for fun. But anyway, so tonight, for first a little self-promotion, I'd like you to take a look at some of my past shows and listen to those shows. And there's a reason why here, but I'll talk about 3 of them. I don't know if you've seen these casts, but just comment on any of these shows I'm going to talk about because we're going to talk about them in detail. Not really the shows, but really the event that was wrapped inside the show. But for example, in October 2019, Kathleen Marden was my guest, and she's fantastic. She's very, very well known. The episode was titled Betty and Barney Hill, Regression Hypnotherapy, and Calvin Parker's latest. And Kathleen, of course, is a leading UFO researcher, the author of several books, a featured on-camera commentator, and an international lecturer. She did some social work back in the day. She's always been an educator and in education services, and a master-level practitioner of the quantum healing hypnosis technique. Her interest in UFOs and she had this is an interesting link because her interest in UFOs and contact began in 1961 because her aunt and uncle are Betty and Barney Hill. And of course, Betty and Barney had a close encounter and subsequent abduction in New Hampshire's White Mountains. Kathleen has been part of MUFON and is on the board of directors of the Edgar Mitchell Foundation, research into extraterrestrial and extraordinary encounters, which is the acronym is FREE. She, of course, when she's speaking about her life and her work, she makes it clear that the opinions expressed are her own and do not necessarily reflect that of the organization. And 3 of Kathleen's books were co-written with nuclear physicist, scientific ufologist Stanton Friedman. So that's pretty cool. So that was one of the shows I had. And then sort of related, because it was Calvin Parker, and that was May 2019. I was lucky enough, I'm always lucky, to have Mr. Calvin Parker on the show in an episode called Alien Abduction, Legend, Calvin Parker and the Pascagoula Abduction. So simply put, in 73, Calvin and his friend Charles Hickson were fishing. A lot of people know this story. I was in along the Pascagoula River when both men were abducted by alien creatures and subjected to an examination. Utterly terrifying. I totally agree. They thought they're both going to die. And then this is crazy because I met these two guys, and I think about them all the time. We're messaging each other quite a bit. They're both real busy, and one of them's a truck driver full time. And so, yeah, a year ago, November 5th, and it seems like yesterday, literally, I can't believe it. John Goulet and Steve Pierce were on the episode, which was called Travis Walton UFO Incident, The Witnesses. John Goulet and Steve Pierce share their story. And that cast was the 45th anniversary to the night of the Travis Walton incident. So, and we talked about those 7 young men that shared that harrowing experience that night, which set the scene, that definitely will outlive generations. And it's quite a story. And when you read it, you immediately think about Travis and all he went through. But in reality, he was has less than an hour of recollection of the event, when in fact, the witnesses, and especially Steve and John, they both had to live with the possible death of their friend and their own reality for 5 days and 6 hours in a living hell of reporters, police interviews, and polygraph tests. And then, of course, Travis showed up. So that's pretty cool.
That one.
So, those are pretty neat historical events. I mean, they're part of our history of our nation, and they're actual UFO stories. Cass, are there any famous alien UFO stories out there that you like? I mean, those 3, and we'll go into it, why they stick out in my mind so much. But what about you? Is there some stories that, or even one that's one of your favorite that happened since you and I were not growing up together, but kind of parallel? Cass,
We're getting
I can't hear you.
check. Can you hear me?
There you go. Yep.
There we go.
Yep. Okay.
My little light's dancing, so I didn't know I was muted. My favorite one would have to be, I don't remember the name of the family, but there was a very famous incident wherein essentially the entire family was attacked by a cluster of greys. And the reason why I like that one the most is because I can examine the situation and tell people exactly what they were there for, and I can tell you the family acted correctly. You know, a lot of people will say we shouldn't be shooting at these creatures. They come from a million miles away. Yeah, but not always with the good intentions. You know, and this particular family on this farm, they fought back, and I like stories of humans fighting back.
Yeah. I like to think I fight back because now I'm prepared.
And you're preparing others.
I don't care. I mention this guy all the time just because he's so cool. Byron Lacey has a gun under his pillow. You know that. We talked about that. And I don't. Well, I kind of do. I don't want to talk about what I have under my pillow. But I'm ready, man.
Good. Everybody needs to be. I'm pretty sure that if
I might have some higher tech weaponry.
Well, yeah, energy weaponry is a lot more ideal. I'm not talking about lasers and plasma blasts, folks. I'm talking about like a Faraday cage, generated EM fields that you can generate at home.
Yes. Shit, yeah.
A lot of the things that people think of as like spiritual and mumbo jumbo really do work on these entities because they are psychically active. They are vulnerable to things that humans are just simply not vulnerable to. And I've said before, people report all the time that it's almost like the aliens are afraid of us. Yeah, we are. Okay, your minds are like buzz saws. All right, if say somebody is being violently abducted, if you could focus well enough, you could literally shred their connection, the consciousness connection between the ships and the Greys. Okay, humans are not defenseless remotely. All right, but a lot of the extraterrestrials that are here are kind of counting on you guys not realizing what you can do.
So I agree with that.
Yeah.
And here's why. Because I've actually seen a guy. I call them the guys. Are they guys, Cass?
No, they're sexless. Their controllers may have genders and sexes, but the individual grays, no. They often don't even have working jaws.
So here's this guy just standing there, and not just once, but at least 3 times. And my mind is going crazy. And I know, like either the second, kind of on the second time, for sure the third time, that it was me that was doing that because I don't play well with others.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, the times are not good right now. I mean, people want to think of ETs as with the petable fur and the flashlight fingers, but, that's not all that's out there.
Do they have a flashlight finger?
Some of them, yeah.
Wow.
Bioluminescence is not that hard to achieve.
No, that's it. Is that universal? Because I mean, it occurs here more than we know. Obviously, I mean, in the ocean, I mean, it's prevalent, especially in the deeper oceans. But we have other creatures out there that we probably haven't seen yet that that do that, which is a pretty cool trick.
Well, the beings that you guys call the Nomo, the fish guys, look up the Dogon tribe, all that. Like half of their communication is in bioluminescence, and people who have encountered USOs and the beings in the USOs will tell you that they'll light up. The air lights up. They can't quite explain it. It's visual communication. I mean, the Nomo are a deep sea species, so of course they're going to be using lights to communicate.
Right.
And of course, people like to remember the Close Encounters of the Third Kind, but that was actually taken from multiple different incidences and multiple different tribes.
So it's really interesting. That's one of the things I think about. I love that show, and I love when they first get a visualization of the aliens. But one thing that always occurs to me is, there's that moment, and I don't know if you call it a hesitation or the moment of really, really the unknown of when these people, make contact. And I would imagine somebody higher up than us has made contact. And it always makes me wonder what that would actually look like and how tense that would be, especially when there's nations involved.
I'm going to say very. Again, the ETs, the physical ETs, they are vulnerable to things like, the cerebral fields, the various radiations on the planet. When second contact finally actually occurs, it will be a tense moment, but keep in mind, you guys are not the most savage species we've dealt with by far. So however bad it goes, or good, it won't be the last chance.
We're bad hombres. Come on.
You are. You really are. But you're not like savage like some other races. Like, for example, imagine you guys went out into the stars and you met a race of chimpanzee people. I guarantee you the chimpanzees are going to be more violent than humans.
Yeah, chimpanzees are nuts. Yeah, that's interesting. So, we talk, and usually, I'm driving or whatever, so I'm kind of rude because you're throwing some stuff at me and you mention a few things, but I always remember it. And so that's why you're here, because I want to ask you about that. So yesterday, you mentioned something about a lady that that's been on your show, and you said to me, and it didn't go unnoticed, she's a Laryn.
Mm-hmm.
Pleiadian. Pleiadian.
Yeah.
Sorry. No, not a Laryn. I got Laryns on the brain, man. So,
why.
Yeah. So she's from the Pleiades.
Yes, sir.
Tell me about that. I want to hear from her. Can I hear from her someday?
Yeah, actually, one of the first things she said is, "Can I come on his show too?" And I said, "I'll ask him."
Yeah.
You heard him, Kristen?
Yeah, let's do that. Tell me about her just a little bit. Don't give up all the really good stuff.
She's a wonderful person and very, very, very wise. And when she first contacted me, I didn't know what to think, because I get contacted by people all the time, especially people that want me to validate their claim to the throne of Israel or something, So
you can't do that?
No, I can't. Are you kidding me? And if I could, why would I want to? I don't want that kind of trouble.
I would like one. So okay.
Now, people think that because of my human family's lineage that I can do stuff like that, and I really can't. That's anyway. So she explained to me who she was, and I'm like, yeah, right. I hear this every day, but I let her talk because it would be a little hypocritical of me to not let someone finish. And she knew basically everything that I know about Pleiadians, right down to anatomical details. She was able to prove to me her own lineage, you know. And then after that, we started working together on spiritual things and found way more success than I ever had on my own, healings, things like that, you know.
Can you point him? Can you point him out on the street? I mean, can you just look in a crowd and say,
Yeah.
"Boom"? There's him.
It's not a visual thing; it's a scent thing. So humans and Pleiadians don't smell the same.
From a distance, though, you cannot.
Well, with a photograph, maybe, sure. It depends on the high quality of the photograph. One of the big things that humans need to understand is there's a phenomenon in place known as the veil. Okay, this isn't like something that somebody built. It's just natural. Sapient minds tend to see what they expect. So when we come here, we look human from the surface out, and you're basically on the surface. Below the surface, it gets easy to tell, you know. So this creates a kind of this veil sort of creates like a disruption in high resolution photographs. Like 4K and above, we can tell visually, who you are. That's why when somebody comes to me for healing, I say, look, I just want to see your eyes and forehead. That's it. No payment, no nothing. Just give me something I can zero in on you with, and that's all we need.
Wow.
So
really makes me think.
Oh, I'm glad. There's literally thousands of us here on the world, not just from Lyra. There's Pleiadians, Arcturians, Nomo. I mean, you name a race, and they're here. There's more than any one person even knows.
Do you search each? Do you search each other out ever?
Yeah, we do.
For what reason? For what purposes?
Assisting each other in the mission. We're all on the same mission. We just all have different aspects we have to work on. So, that's one of the reasons I do the show is so the others on the same mission can go, oh, okay, and then they can contact me, and it's actually pretty awesome. We're forming a bit of a superhero team because humans have given us a great, like in the past, we'd come here and the idiots would tell you humans, oh, well, we're gods. That is not true in the slightest.
Them saying you're gods.
Yeah. So like I think Valiant Thor was the first one to actually attempt to not claim to be a god while he was here. He just, when he got here, he presented himself to the government and just said, bam, this is what's up. And so ever since Valiant Thor, it's been a lot easier. But before that, when a human sees you do basic technology, they think it's magic, and they're like, you must be Jesus. No, I'm just Cass.
So you just mentioned basic technology. So you're saying different technology. What's an example of that?
Well, yeah, perfect example, like the way we cure COVID. Yeah, it basically things like sound waves. Cannabis helps. It's an expectorant. I admit I use cannabis to help me get through it. I completely admit it. But it's not the cannabis. It's the hyperstrings, if you will. Or like you mentioned earlier, quantum healing. Perfect word. That's our technology. Essentially,
you have you look different. You have fingernails.
Need them.
Okay. Why?
Well, number one, there's an incredible amount of sensory information that you can get from just grazing human nails across the surface. There's literally thousands and thousands of informational nerve sensors in the back of your nails. I need all of that. I have to feel everything. Okay. My nails don't just feel like the wind blowing past. They also feel like the energy flows. See, fingernails are made, claws, rhino horns, all that stuff. It's made of the same material as your hair. And as many of you probably are aware, the Native Americans do not have to cut their hair in the military. There are very specific reasons for this. And that's the same reason I grow my nails long. You see, basically, without these little antennas, it is a lot harder to manipulate the various hyperstrings.
Your eyes aren't as good as the average man, right?
No, I'm legally blind.
Right.
So, like, the computer is like this far away, and I'm still having trouble seeing it, folks.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, don't take your eyes for granted, anybody. Can you splash up that first graphic?
Yes, I can.
Amongst us, so they can still see us.
And there it is.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Right on. Man, I get lost here.
Okay, hold on. Slight difficulty. Of course. Why would it not do this while I'm live?
Yeah, you kind of got pushed out.
There we go. All right. First picture.
Okay. So, yeah, that's cool. And I'm assuming we have the drawing. There's that delay. I can't see it yet, but okay. So, I wanted to talk about the Pascagoula abduction because Calvin Parker has been in the news lately. Dr. Irina Scott put out another book, and she was on recently, and that was another show that I did not mention. But she also is a researcher and has looked into the Calvin Parker and Charles Hickson incident that happened in Pascagoula. And 1973, they claim they were abducted by aliens while fishing in Pascagoula, Mississippi. It was the evening at the time. Charlie, he was 42 years old. Calvin was 19 years old. And they told the local sheriff's office they were fishing off a pier on the west bank of the Pascagoula River in Mississippi when they heard a whirring, buzzing sound, and they saw two flashing blue lights and observed an oval-shaped object 30 to 40 feet across, 8 to 10 feet high. Parker and Hickson claimed they were conscious but paralyzed, while three creatures with robot slit mouths and crab-like pincers took them aboard the object and subjected them to an examination. So to me, man, that was horrifying. And you can see that graphic, and you can see on top, that's Charlie, and then Calvin right below. Charlie has passed away, but Calvin actually wrote a book later, and I talked about that show earlier that I did with him, and he actually told me that, he never thought about writing a book and just went in his bedroom and started doing it. That's the thing I'm skeptical about, whether a man could just go in. I mean, yes, they could go in and write a book, but I don't know. Weird circumstances make you do weird things. But so, Cass, we were talking yesterday when I was a young lad, and in 1973, I would have been about 8 years old. But just shortly thereafter, that was big news. And what happened back then, that event alone spawned a bunch of different things to happen. One of those was a show called UFO Report. It was on the radio, and I remember it coming on every Monday through Friday at 7:50 a.m. on my local radio station in northern Montana. I don't think it probably was every day, but I don't know. One of the things that was a big hit in my part of the world were cattle mutilations, but this particular story just blew my mind, and I was scared shitless. Of course, this was radio, so I was visualizing. I visualized these creatures exactly. I mean, it just filled my head, and I think Calvin and Charlie kind of named them sort of a robotic type of an organism, and when they ended up being abducted aboard the ship, they were, how do I want to put it? There were other creatures aboard the ship, and they were injected and basically kind of were floating around and doing different things. But it was really, really closely looked at by law enforcement. People came from all over the world. I know a guy that went there to look at the evidence, and he was from Greece, and I did a show with him. So I actually did quite a few shows related to that. So did you know anything about that event, or have you studied it? Is it something that you want to comment on? Because what is that?
Honestly,
I mean, yeah.
The first time you told me this story was the first time I'd heard it. I'm actually not as well versed in ufology lore as I should be.
Yeah.
Now that being right there, I have no idea I would guess that it's a kind of what you guys would call a gray, like a biorobot, just judging from the description. Uh, but honestly, that thing would terrify me too.
Yeah, just it. You know, I think I think we're more comfortable. Not that we're ever comfortable with anything like that, but more comfortable with with moving bipedal objects. Although these kind of were floating, but
Yeah.
objects like that have two eyes. You know, and
Yeah, something about those cones is just disconcerting, you
that's
know?
weird, man. It's just really weird. So, you know, if you go and Google these two guys and you look at them, um, just the look in their eyes and the sincerity and Calvin was kind of you know, he was a younger guy and he kind of let Charlie make all the moves, but I mean Charlie was scared and it was just really really strange. I mean, not that any of this is not strange or anything related, but yes, three small creatures emerged and they were hovering. And the men finally, you know, they suddenly were paralyzed. The creatures grabbed them and pulled them over to the what would be the craft that they possibly came in. Um, Parker said that he not until 2018 he got more vocal about it, but that he was pulled inside, and both him and Hickson were subjected to physical exams. They said by something that looked like a great big eye. A
Hmm.
constant mechanical sound and buzzing was in the background the whole time. What about a big Cass? What about a big eye?
That actually makes the most sense out of all of it. Ocular devices are very common. A lot more of this world is based off of light. Point of fact, some of us refer to this dimension as the slow light dimension. And so basically, with an Oculus like that that's specifically tracking light, I imagine they were scanning these two guys, you know? But again, I don't recognize this tribe at all. You finally found one that stumped me.
So scanning for, I mean, why are we so interesting?
Well, in your guys' DNA is sort of like a source code for reality itself. That's why, like the Love and Light crowd will always say humans are creators. This is very, very true. A very, very great many races want in on this, but most of them don't understand that in order to do what humans do, you have to be born here. You have to come and be human.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not something they can just excise and then graft onto their own genetics. And they don't understand that, you
Right.
know? But that's kind of what divides us into the various tribes. We call ourselves tribes of light and shadow, and basically what it boils down to is harmony or control. We are entities of harmony, and these guys would probably be entities of control.
Right. Right. Yeah.
But
So this is one thing that I find this sort of activity is increasing, and that's the fact that years later, decades later, there's all these people that come forward,
yeah,
and all these books are written. This event, of course, gets more attention. 2 years, it'll be an anniversary, and so more and more attention. They're putting memorials to this event, near the site,
good.
and some of that, if you Google Earth, that man, some of that that real estate around there hasn't changed much. So that's really cool to see that. You're kind of seeing some of it as it was. And, but yeah, all these people came forward. Of course, quote unquote, new evidence, which, you know, to me, that's the least interesting thing about it. And the reason why is because, I don't necessarily believe it. Um, a lot of it is they're reiterating a lot of things that both Calvin and Charlie had said, and
Yeah,
they're also reclaiming evidence that or testimony by other few people back then, and even testimony that could have been from Charlie and Calvin, but didn't get published as popular as everything else. So,
Yeah.
you know, I don't really know. I mean, I don't, I don't really think there were, you know, there were a lot of witnesses like that have come forward just recently, just because it was kind of a remote place and people, you know, probably weren't there. I don't think those kind of events people, you know, mass people are meant to see for some reason.
No.
You know, it seems to be like an individual thing.
Well, if they reveal
People are
themselves,
handpicked.
I would say, yeah. Basically, if they came all at once, essentially humans could mount a planet-wide defense in under a second. That's how fast you guys can get organized. So they'll perfectly shadow tribes rather will very purposefully pick people that won't be believed. You know, when was the last high-level government official you heard got forcibly abducted? Doesn't happen. They take guys like Walton. You know, nobody will ever believe Walton. Go ahead and take him. You know, or they take guys like me because nobody would ever believe me, but I have a different set of circumstances. But
Hold on, you've been taken?
yeah, they've tried damn near nightly.
Who's they?
We would call them the shadow tribes. Your viewers in the various UFO crowd would call them Dracos. Uh,
You've
we
brought those up before.
oh yeah, yeah we are wherever they show up, so do we. And unfortunately, the vice versa is true. We're basically Dracos and Lyryns are more or less like sister species. We occupy the same band of life, but at opposite harmonies, if you will. You know, we are violet light, they are red light, if that makes any sense.
No, it doesn't.
Right. Well, they are very, very base creatures. Okay. For example, here, like the way they feed is by injecting or doing something horrible to a human and then sucking the energy that's
They
generated.
eat us?
Not your flesh. They eat your brainwaves.
See, that's what I'm trying to say, man, and I have been. I don't think that, you know, I know there's something out there, and I know it's not always good for us.
No. The guys who took Walton are interested in bodies, but most are not. Mostly like the Dracos and whatnot, they're interested in control, energy feeding, things like that. You know, so a Draco might, for example, arrange to have your kid killed in front of you, and then they'll be just sidereal in hyperspace, just soaking up your misery.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons why they do what they do in this planet is to just create a miasma of misery. You know, people have heard all the time, like the theory that a ghost is like an emotional leftover from an actual human, like emotional residue. That kind of emotional residue is endemic to the environment, you know?
Sure.
So it's part of the natural world, is even if you guys can't see it yet. And beings like us, that's our background. That's our backyard, you know? So similarly speaking, like they feed by inducing this negative reaction. What we do is what we feed on is positive, but we don't take it from you. We do what's called not codependent. I can't. It's mutual. Not parasite, symbiote.
Obligatory mutualism, symbiotic,
Yes.
mutualism.
Yes. So I get
When
a
I say when I say obligatory mutualism, that means we get something back.
Mhm.
You get some. Do we get anything from this shit? I mean, because it's
Yes, you do.
what?
Oh.
Headache.
Wait,
Hangover.
that's just Cassidy causing headaches. That's sorry. That's not everybody else. No, for example, you guys will
Positive.
get healed of your diseases, or you'll get a windfall. Maybe you'll win the lottery. Whatever. That's part of how our technology works. Essentially, you get a rise, a jolt of positive sensation, and we get a jolt of food. You know, it's quantum entanglement. It both has to happen at the same time. You see, the lower level entities, lower harmonic entities, they have to feed in a predatory fashion. They have to take, and that's just bad juju.
So when did you switch from sucking positive energy to cigarettes and caffeine?
When my gut exploded. Yeah, I was on a job, and this
I
entity
don't
was
smoke, but boy, I'll tell you, I'm sure it's good stuff because I love caffeine.
Well, caffeine's good. I don't like smoking. I really, really hope I can quit soon. But until they can figure out how to fix my intestines, I'm stuck. So,
So let me be really, really honest. And, there's a lot of things that I avoid. And as far as subjects that I don't like to talk about, not that I won't talk about them, but, we kind of, you're kind of like this big pond of information, and I kind of skip over it and like a rock, just because not that I don't feel, not that I don't feel comfortable talking about anything. It's just that, you know, um, I hate the word rabbit hole, I hate Pandora's box, but there's just a shitload to talk about. And
yeah.
there's all these connections, and again, there's aliens, and there's cryptids, and there's
hmm
just
Hyperdimensional entities, all that.
ghosts, spirits. There's a spirit world, and there's another world, and there's all these different worlds, and there's doors, and there's wormholes, and so there are folks that I've had on that pretty soon we're talking about going to this nightly to this huge convention of aliens encompassing over 250,000 species somewhere, and it's a regular thing, and I've had those conversations before.
Yeah.
But I got to say this, I've had just some people that I thought were just borderline something, and people loved it.
Hmm.
The listeners loved it. I love that. I mean, that's my favorite thing. It's when I'm doing a show with somebody that I can't keep up with, and they're talking a million miles an hour, and my listeners love it. There was a guy, I won't say who it was, but it's one of my shows, and he just went off. Two guys actually, and same thing happened. Well, there you go again. Same thing happened while we were doing the show. Was that I ended up I lost one of my wait, I record with two different things, GarageBand and this Rode
Ooh.
thing I'm using. And I lost one of them, and I started the computer back up again, started recording them again. And as I was listening to playback and editing, I thought, you know what? It doesn't really matter what order I put this in at all. And I was taking so much time to do it. So it was just totally out of order. Both guys listened to the show, didn't notice. And everybody that listened to it thought it was fantastic. And I learned a lot. And it was, to me, it was a bit sensationalized. But of course, that's why people love stories, is because of sensationalism a bit, and then the conflict,
Yeah.
So thanks for liking that, everybody. And I'll try to be a little bit more upbeat and a little bit crazier, because and take some risks. That's why I got this guy, because actually there's no risks here, Cass, because I know no matter what I throw at you, you're going to answer, and you're going to have a comment, and that's cool. Can you throw that other photo of those two boys up there?
Yes, sir. Well,
Number
I don't
two.
think I have another photo of the boys that you
Oh,
sent me.
maybe
There's
what's
a
the next
drawing.
one?
It's a drawing.
Oh, the drawing. So
Yeah.
that's the creature that I think it was Charlie drew that, and that's crazy.
Yeah. I'm wondering if the ship hung to the side like that as well. That reminds me of that movie Arrival.
Yeah, that picture actually had. Oh, okay. It does have the dude standing there. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So if you look, and I think not Philip Kinsella, Philip. Let me get this Philip's name really quick. Bear with me just a second. He's a publisher, and I know him very well. I can't. Philip Mantle. So he's a publisher, and he publishes. He's got a company called Flying Disc Press, and so of course that's what he publishes, and he's got all kinds of books. Like he published Dr. Irena Scott's book. It's called Beyond Pascagoula, which is available on Amazon right now. But on Philip's Facebook page. He has some drawings and some posters and some like close-ups of the skin of these things. Also,
Okay, that's interesting.
he has a 3D, like somebody sort of did an action figure, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And it's available somewhere. Philip could tell you, and if you contacted him, he would certainly give you that information. But that's a 3D action figure of a real freaking alien that somebody saw back in 1973. I don't know another case like that. I mean, I know that people have put together models and whatever. What I'm saying is I don't know another event like that with a creature that looked like that.
Yeah.
With these carrot things sticking out of its, I'm saying face, but that's probably not even its face. I keep comparing it to us.
Yeah, exactly. It's easy to anthropomorphize something, but we really don't know. I mean, from the other
Right.
drawing, it doesn't look like there's any eyes or nose. You know,
Right. 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 Yeah.
I'm,
Yeah.
I'm used to.
And
I'm
there,
used.
there might not be vision, hearing, taste, smell, any of that.
No, it could be all vibrational for all we know.
Can
I
you
mean,
can you imagine though? Listen to this, Cass. So taste, smell, vision, hearing. I mean, how many people have gotten an illness, maybe COVID, and all of a sudden your taste is a burden, your smell it's messed up. I mean, we rely on that so much. I mean, hearing, you lose hearing, or like I gotta admit, I got this incredible case of tinnitus so bad, my ears ring all the time. They probably always will, and it is kind of a pain in the ass. And, there's things obviously we hear that we don't want to from time to time that are super painful. And same way with sight. So, it's kind of a burden. It seems to be primitive in a way because, obviously we're this organized group of light waves that really, do we need that? You know?
you need it for the right stage of evolution. You know.
Yeah, but but then again, you talk about it that way, sounding that, we're gonna move on. Am I gonna move on and be something else in 3 billion years? Because maybe I don't want to be
Yes.
around that long.
Yes. Yeah. The question is, how will you feel at that
It's
time?
tiring right now.
Yeah, well, wet senses are a bitch. I'm gonna be the first person to admit that bodies are very difficult to deal with.
Yeah.
Um,
So
but one of the things that I want to express to humans is that look, on this journey, what you guys are experiencing right now with the Great Awakening, like many of you are starting to wake up to psychic abilities that you're just noticing that you've had, or maybe you've had them your whole life or whatever. This is an evolution-wide phenomenon. That's part of the reason we're here is to assist with this time. So all of the wet senses, your vision, your sense of smell, your sense of touch, all those things are all geared towards survival. And that's why humans can only perceive time going in one direction. Okay? Time going in that direction, specifically that forward, linear causality way that you guys perceive things is the highest rate of survival. And quite frankly, the journey on any given planet is one of sapience. It's the race to sapience. And so you need those things. You need to be able to survive. You know, if your guys' sensory packages worked like, say, for example, the Pleiadians do right now, the last human on Earth's last words would be, "Wow, that tiger's coming right at me." You know, until you can transcend the body, you need these linear senses. You know, and quite frankly, we can say that from our perspective because we didn't evolve with bodies. We evolved as energy beings. So we're sort of learning how to have a body and how to be human, you know, how to be of flesh. And it's not easy.
so I ask you these questions, and you're a good source of information. Um, you don't know everything, do you?
Oh, hell no. You kidding me?
Okay.
I was barely an adult when Malaqua blew up.
Do we ever reach a point where we know everything? I mean, to me, that would be I think we're starved for information. I mean, everything that we do revolves around information. I mean,
Yeah.
everything that we take in with our senses has to do with information. Why do we need to know so much? But I do. I mean, I think that would be the ultimate paradise and reward would be to have that infinite knowledge, never asking, never having to actually see somebody just for our own pleasure rather than just
Right?
wondering. Just enjoy,
Yeah.
hang out, do nothing. Is that a possibility,
Oh yeah. The Arcturians are very,
Master?
very groovy with that. You know, quite frankly, it's just a matter of what do you want. I mean, if you want to know everything in the world, congratulations, make that your journey. I personally don't care. I personally would rather I want my mission to be over and I want to settle down in a cabin somewhere and play video games for the rest of this life.
But in a transformation via evolution, I'm assuming
Yeah.
I don't know how that would work, but I'm assuming that's what
Well,
we ultimately would desire
oh yeah. Well, it's happening right now. You've heard of like indigo children, right?
or get, desire and achieve. And go ahead with that. Indigo children. What about indigo children?
Well, indigo children are children that are born with a radically different perspective. And what your guys as scientists are finding now is that that has to do with what used to be thought of as a junk chromosome. It's not junk, you know. So the
Right.
idea that your children, your children and your children's children are going to be born different and more advanced somehow is something that the artists have been predicting for hundreds of years. Look at the X-Men for Christ's sake. That's a fiction that describes what's happening without all the cool superpowers. That would be awesome, but no. But it's describing what's happening. Your children are being born different. The children are being born understanding things about empathy that their parents simply can't, like they're unable. You know, the parts of the brain are just not ready, but their children are. And you guys can see this in the pattern. The IQ is the general IQ of the people is just going up, everywhere around the world. It's got nothing to do with education. It's got nothing to do with, means or money. It's just children are being born understanding the world, like understanding physics, like people before them understand colors, which
Right.
is exactly what Neil deGrasse Tyson predicted. He said if we ever started to see some kind of evolution, this is what we'd start to see first. And he was 100% correct.
Hmm.
The only difference is, the only real thing is that it actually started several years, several decades rather, before he was born.
When you look at that in reverse, understanding color has got to be significant and has to be
Hmm. Well, I mean, look how advanced just understanding color is above, say, dogs and dolphins. Everybody likes to think dolphins are intelligent. That is absolutely true. They are intelligent, but not as intelligent as you guys. And you notice to these lesser entities, colors don't really matter. They can't, like dogs. Even if you could show a dog color, what would it know? It would be like, "Whoa, mind blown! Oh my God!" Then we'll run back to tell all the other dogs, and the other dogs would be like, "You're crazy. There's only black and white. What are you talking about? Red? What is this red crap?" You know?
right.
And it's the same thing for the indigo and crystal children. They can understand these vast aspects of things like quantum and macro physics, but they don't know how to explain it. So they just sound like they're crazy to everybody who's dealing with established science. You know?
Right. Just reminding people that if they want to get on, ask a question, we're live on YouTube. You can check it out there, and you can ask a question on YouTube. If you want to join us and ask a question on Facebook Messenger, you can do that, and we can start a chat with you if you'd like on Facebook Messenger as well, and you can ask a question, or you can call in, which that's going to be a little bit sketchy because it is. People, for some reason, I answer my phone, people chicken out, which I understand. That's okay. Nobody's perfect.
No, 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 no. It takes a lot of courage to open up like this, folks. I'm giggling because I've chickened out too. Okay? Not because I'm laughing at you guys. I'm like, yep, I know what it is to make the bok bok.
I don't know if I've called into your show. I think maybe I did. Um, you and our man there over the pond I talked to,
Yes, sir. And Bradley,
Bradley.
if you're listening,
Yeah.
I love you, bro.
Yeah, we love Bradley Powers in the UK. That's another guy between the two of you. I would like to see what your encyclopedia power and Lightwing would look like.
That would be interesting.
That would be interesting.
I got a life. Bradley would ask me like, what was the best stories, and I'm like, okay, you need to give me a subject, man. I've been paranormal investigating since I was 5. I'm gonna need a little bit of narrowing down, man.
Yeah.
So,
Can you hit up our next slide?
yes, sir.
I believe it's the Travis Walton UFO incident,
Yes, sir. Mr.
and I
Walton is
can't
one of my heroes.
look at that for 8 seconds. So which one are we looking at?
Well, we're looking at Travis Walton,
Oh, the
Michael
gang.
Rogers, Alan.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
whole gang.
Yep.
Yeah. So the Travis Walton, obviously it's pretty cool story. I love the fact that I got to talk to two of the key players in that, and I still do. So Travis Walton was an alleged UFO abduction, and I'm getting this off Wikipedia. I don't care if anybody knows because it's good information. I'm glad it's there. Do you remember when you first saw Wikipedia?
Yeah.
It's cool. I think it's cool. Anyway, so they were forest workers. There was a group of them, and this was November 5th, 1975, and I got to celebrate last year the 45th anniversary with two of these guys live on my show. And it was in the Apache Sitgreaves National Forest, and that's near Snowflake, Arizona. These boys were up there, and after a long day, it was, evening was just coming over the bend, and they were driving back in their vehicle, and they see this glow in the forest, and obviously there's some kind of craft floating in the woods. For some weird reason, Travis is just going to go for it. And he runs out there, and a beam of light came out and hit him. He was transported apparently into this craft. Steve Pierce says, right now, if you talk to him, he said he saw it. He saw Travis go up there. Walton was missing for 5 days and 6 hours. They searched with scent dogs and helicopters, and he reappeared by the side of the road near Heber, Arizona. Again, 5 days later.
Very lucky to be alive.
Yeah, the Walton case received mainstream publicity and remains one of the best known alien stories and abduction stories. Again, this was one of those stories that I got to listen to before I went to school. So that like 1970. So I'm thinking I must have listened to this show in 76 or 77 because that's when, because they both talked, I don't know how long it was on, but I'm just guessing, 76. But yeah, so I got to listen to the story about Calvin, the story about Travis Walton and his group. And Cass, it scared the living shit out of me as a kid, and it wasn't, some things hit home there, and it was particularly unnerving for me, but, personally, but, later on it even got worse. So I didn't dig it, man. But the names there, Michael Rogers, Alan Dallas, John Goulet, who was on my show, Kenneth Peterson, Steve Pierce, Dwayne Smith, and of course, Travis Walton. Those are good photos of those guys. To me, I don't know when those photos were taken. They seem to be like almost like promotional glossies. I don't know if they're taken afterwards. I can't imagine, here's these guys working out in the forest, and they took these photos for any reason prior to that. Must have been after. But, Cass, these dudes, the 6 of them, Travis disappeared, and then these guys were under the microscope for 5 days, man, because everybody around thought they murdered Travis, and they were subjected to lie detector tests, and they passed. And
yeah,
it's really an interesting story. I mean, not just because it's a UFO story and an abduction story. It's just the whole process that they went through. It's crazy, man.
Yeah. especially given the people they encountered. Travis really is lucky to be alive.
People, some guys. They ran into some guys.
Okay, I use people a little too loosely.
They're guys, man.
The entities that took Travis.
Oh, yeah. So you saw the movie?
Mm-mm. Never
So
did.
weird looking guys in the movie. Abnormally weird alien looking. And then I've seen an artist rendition of what Travis saw, but so who were these guys? Bad hombres?
Oh yeah, my people call them Kute, and quite frankly, imagine all the worst parts of aliens. You know, like as in like the Geiger xenomorph. I'm pretty sure that these guys are the inspiration for the alien monster. Basically,
Right.
they're bugs. To put it simply. Now, some people are gonna say, oh, they're mantids. Not really. Humans tend to see mantids as mantids because you know what a praying mantis looks like, so you expect to see a praying mantis. They don't look like that to anybody else, okay? And quite frankly, the biomechanics of their technology is such that I literally do not understand how Mr. Walton could have survived, let alone been put back. You know,
Yeah. Yeah, he was put back.
yeah. The best that we figure from our end is that essentially Travis was carrying some kind of sickness or disease, and he infected the rest of the ship, and they couldn't do anything about it. So their
He
last
had
ditch
he
effort
had a
was to.
bad attitude, like a really infectious bad attitude. I think all these guys, you should talk to him now.
Well, aren't
I
they like
mean, they're
lumberjacks or something?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
See, me and them wouldn't get along too
You don't,
well.
you
I'd be
don't go
like,
pick you don't pick one lumberjack out of a group of lumberjacks, you
sure
know,
you do if you're hunting
forest
them. But
workers.
yeah, my people understand that trees are sapient. I'm not going to get along with a lumberjack. That's just not going to happen. I can not judge them. I'm cool. Everybody got to make a living, but don't expect me to agree with cutting down trees.
I had John and Steve on the show, and so I had a whole list of questions, and so I introduced them, and they're like, okay. And then they just start talking to each other for 10 minutes, like catching up.
Well, yeah.
Didn't really have much to do with what the show was supposed to be about. So I kind of let me ask you guys something, and I think it was Steve was like, "Can you just let us talk?" And I was like,
God,
"Okay." So people got a good sense of what they were about, and they talked about whatever.
good.
But it was an anniversary show, and geez, I don't know how I fell into that, but it happens sometimes. I was
It worked
glad
out.
of it. Yeah, it's cool. So I got to talk to those boys. What else do I want to say about this incident? So it, the press was amazing. In the following days, after Walton disappeared, the National Enquirer awarded Walton and his coworkers a $5,000 prize for the best UFO case. The year after, they passed the polygraph tests administered by the Enquirer and the Aerial Phenomena Research Organization, APRO rather. Walton, his older brother, and his mother were described by Navajo County, Arizona sheriff as longtime students of UFOs. Some ufologists believe Walton was abducted by aliens. Ufologist Jim Ledwith said, for 5 days, the authorities thought he'd been murdered by his coworkers and then returned. He was returned. All the coworkers who were there, who saw the spacecraft, all took polygraphs, and they all passed except for one, and that one was inconclusive. But then again, there was the National Enquirer prize, and they were aware of that. So, $5,000 was a lot of money back then. Did they make it up? We'll never know. But there's some stuff that's come forward, and I think some of it was from Alan Dallas, and I don't remember. Well, I do remember kind of what it was. I do remember. I don't really want to talk about it just because. Yeah, I mean, out of 6 guys, obviously there's going to be some changes that occur. Over the years. So that's all I'll say about that, because I got 2 good friends in Steve and John. They're cool dudes and truck drivers, and John Goulette still works full time, and he's in the truck all the time, and so I hear from him often, and it's kind of fun to hear about this stuff, and kind of in blurbs, but I'm more interested in truck driving now than I've ever been. And maybe you'll see me pull up in front of your house one of these days.
That would be pretty rad.
In an 18-wheeler, because I'm ready to leave right now.
It's the My Alien Life tour bus.
I want to go south, man. I want to go south. I'm just trying to think if I had another Walton slide.
I think the next one is Betty and Barney.
Is it Betty and Barney? I like talking about Travis. Anything you want to say about?
Oh, yes. Dude, I have volumes to talk about Travis.
Hey, talk about it.
All right. So first thing I want people to understand is Travis is a hero. People don't really realize what a hero he is by essentially letting the world know that these guys are out there. The Kute are harvesting right now, just like they were back then in the late 70s, early 80s. And quite frankly, this is where a lot of you guys hear about the missing 411. Kute are really good at making people disappear. Okay. And they're probably the most ravenous. Okay. So for Travis to survive, again, purely genius. However he did it, genius, right? Whatever you did, Mr. Walton, congratulations. Please teach others. And more importantly, again, they're still there. Somebody like Travis, coming forward with his experience is not an easy feat. His whole life, I imagine, has been colored by this, but it's got to be done. You guys have to realize that there is much going on in your atmosphere. These bioships, man, they are bad news, really bad news. And quite frankly, this planet needs a defense now. Okay.
You know how many people are usually missing average throughout the United States yearly?
I don't have the stats on that, actually.
Well, this is around 600,000. Of course, many people show up again.
Yeah.
Of course. But, that's a lot. And I think Yosemite has, so national parks people miss, that's in the woods, man. And people in national parks are missing. Yosemite has the most missing people per year.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. And
it's one of the reasons I used to live outside Yosemite.
So I'm not sure how many people per year, but
it's definitely enough.
Who knows?
It's definitely enough that if those bodies were still in Yosemite, it would be obvious.
Right.
We used to live in Merced, California, which is it styles itself the gateway to Yosemite, and one of the reasons why I stuck around there is because of the activity. Is foreigners, tourists all the time, just anybody that can go missing. And the forest can be a very, very dangerous place, not because of the animals, but because of the other people, But yeah.
So the area I grew up in, known for cattle mutilations. What's a cattle mutilation?
Well, the cases I examined, I can't speak for all cattle mutilations, but the cases I examined were situations where they were testing radiation technology. As I've said before, the various planets have different radiational requirements. Like Earth, Elon Musk just recently, a couple months ago, announced to zero fanfare that humans can't survive the radiation on Mars. And he also surmised that, a Martian wouldn't be able to survive the radiation here. And he's absolutely right. You guys have seen the reliefs and whatnot on Ancient Aliens, where the eagle guy has a purse, and there's all purses. Yeah. There's all these purses. What are those?
I thought that was a laptop case. That's
no,
another.
But yeah, I can see why somebody would think that. But those are devices meant to normalize the radiation so that they can survive here, and that humans can survive in their presence.
Right.
So the cattle mutilation, I'm sure there are other kinds of cattle mutilations, but the ones I saw were essentially they were testing out the radiation normalization technology to make sure that they could survive on this world, and it killed the cow.
But what about the other thing? The precision slice and dice.
Yeah, that's called a de-resolution of flesh. That's why it looks so precise to the cell. They weren't cut open with a laser or anything like that. The flesh that was affected, how there's sections that are just missing. that's dissolved, as in atomized, as in vaporized.
Right.
Okay. And unfortunately, along with that, the blood gets exsanguinated because there's an opening and vacuum. Of course, it's the same thing would happen to a bottle of water, you know. But when that radiation kicks up, man, it can dissolve tissue, like just dissolve it, down into its base component atoms. And so from the outside, it looks like the cleanest possible cut, you know. But if you examine it under a microscope, it'll be slightly uh, cauterized, but not via heat. And the scientists will be like, "What the hell is going on here?" And that's how I got involved. So that was basically field technology in testing going wrong.
So, that's where I grew up. And another thing that, of course, a lot of gray reports.
Yeah.
And a lot of gray reports in the bedroom, in the house, these guys just show up.
Yeah.
1, 2, or 3 in your house.
Yeah. They can
What's
sense
the
when you're
MO
most
there?
vulnerable. They can sense that you're vulnerable. You're with your spouse, or you're naked, or you're on the pot, whatever. Whenever you're at your weakest, that's when they're going to show up.
Why?
Because you're at your weakest, and no predator likes hard targets.
What are they there for? I mean,
Well, again, that's highly dependent. The Kute, they just want breeding stock. They want to incorporate your genetics into their own. Um, the Loquogoth, what you guys call Dracos, they want to feed and they want control. What they're after is the element 115 at your core. That's what they're ultimately after. But why not feed while you're here, right? Every tribe wants something different. All we want is our brother back. Our species used to be very, very, very close. That's all we want is we just want our brother back.
so, one of the things that really, really amazes me that I saw, in addition to these guys standing right there in front of me, multiple times, which sucked.
Mm.
What I saw outside, in addition to this huge green flash and all these gray tic tacs on the horizon in the middle of the night, I also saw, laying on my back, gazing at the stars with friends several times, sleeping outside from, 7 to 17 years old, spending summers out there.
Right.
The coolest thing, and I would love to get video proof of this somehow. I just need to figure out what sort of optical lens to film this, and I'm sure it still exists. And in north central Montana by the Canadian border, in the middle of summer, end of July, early August. Probably not as much after August 15th for some reason. I truly believe that, and I don't know why. But we're out there, and in the night sky, straight up, just to the north is where we would see northern lights certain times a year. But, back then you could see satellites, a lot of them kind of not exactly north and west, but almost north and west, more than any other direction. And you would see them coming over right where we were. And 2, 3 a night. But once in a while, here would come a satellite, and then you're watching this clear path, looks exactly the same, and then it stops. And then there's a light here. Looks like a star, maybe not quite a star. Goes up there, joins it. Goes down to another one. Goes down to another one. To another one. And maybe hits 3 or 4 of them, and then just goes.
Almost like it's collecting its buddies, huh?
So that's not a satellite, man. I mean, it's just doing it could do a 45, 90 degree turn, stop on a dime,
Yeah, satellites can't do that.
Probably going 27,000 miles per hour, stopping on a dime, and that's crazy. But I've seen that. And what's surprising is that I've never seen it. I did a somewhere on one of my pages, and I think it's on my website. Is I did a JPEG of that and what that looks like. And you know how a star is you know what a star looks like.
Yeah.
You know these are almost like balls of round gray discs, sort of. But I mean they're reflecting a lot of light. But but I saw that, you know, and I saw it many times. And you know, who do you tell about that? Oh, nobody's going to come out and sit with you for 4 nights in a row for 8 hours at a time and check that out. You know, so but it's a real thing and it's happening, and I assume it's still happening. I'd love to, and I don't know why nobody's ever videotaped that.
Well, they get made fun of. I got a guy that sends me extra UFO videos literally every night, and we're gonna have him on the show at some point.
I have somebody like that too.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Well, my guy's named William, and
yeah.
big shout out to William. Love you, bro.
Hi, William.
He keeps sending me these pictures, and I can't see them, and I'm like, dude, I'm blind. I can't see it, man.
Right.
But yeah, it depends on really where you are. Like over on the West Coast, like Mount Shasta, and up towards Oregon and Washington, nightly activity. You know.
Well, and I think there is up there too, but I don't think where I live now there's that same kind of activity. I don't know why. Um, we're roughly the same altitude, but there's a lot of mountains. We're kind of in a valley, so I don't know. I don't know why we don't see that as much.
Well, maybe be glad.
Here. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. We don't, and back home there's UFOs, but which surprises me that on that MUFON report that I get monthly, and it shows reports by state. Montana's rarely on the list, for the top 20, but people where I grew up don't give a shit anymore. It's like a way of life.
That's probably why. It's just people just ignore it now.
Right, right. They expect it. They expect a few cows missing.
Yeah.
Can you go to Betty and Barney?
Yes, sir.
Rubble Hill.
Where is it? There's the slideshow. There we go. And that's Benny and Barney Hill. Barney.
So yeah,
Barney.
I was lucky enough to have Kathleen Marden on the show, and her aunt and uncle were Betty and Barney Hill. And back in the day, they were this mixed race couple that popular people, and this was 1961, and wow, where do I even start with this? I mean, most people know the story. It was in New Hampshire, the month of September. They were driving down a road, hadn't seen a car for a long, long time, and they saw a strange light, seemed to be following them. When they finally got to the Portsmouth at dawn, that's where they were going. They were relieved, and they kind of felt dirty, and they noticed their watches had stopped working, and Barney's shoes were strangely scuffed, and Betty's dress was ripped, and there were 2 hours of that drive that neither one of them can remember. So that was a UFO report with missing time, which has become a fairly common thing.
Yeah.
And of course, with the help of a psychiatrist, the quiet couple eventually revealed a startling story. Gray beings with large eyes had walked them into a metallic disc, as wide, Betty said, and as long as their house was long. Once inside, the beings examined the couple and erased their memories. Why did they erase their memories, Cass?
Well, they don't want to get found out too soon, man. Again, once humans realize what's happening here, it's going to be the alien apocalypse, and not on your guy, not against you guys. The Zetas have always been a freaking problem until just recently. They tend to treat humans like they can do whatever they want. The Zetas have been coming here and messing with things since the Middle Ages. That got very, very nasty, but luckily the Zetas have calmed down. The thing is that when Betty and Barney Hill in their regressions, Betty asked them, "Where do you come from?" and they pointed to Zeta Reticuli, which is hence why we call them Zetas now.
Right.
But what she should have asked is, "What is your planet of origin?" She didn't ask, "What's your planet of origin?" She says, "Where do you come from?" I can tell you guys that Zeta Reticuli is a major port. The what you guys call Zetas are human. They're just
Cass,
not from this
you're
time.
moving around and pulling your cable, and I think it's the cable in your when you're moving. Yeah, that's I can't hear it now,
Right.
but okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, I think I found the problem.
Yep.
So like I said, so what they saw were beings that were collectively referred to as Zetas, and the Zetas are human. You know
Right.
what they're doing is that they're humans. Some you could say they're from the future, they're from the past, different timeline. Who cares? Okay, the point is that they are human and they're here messing with human events specifically to create their own timeline. Now that's where the Zetas haven't been very active since around 2016, 2017. The reason being is because we finally got a peace going. Thank God. There's so much bad news. But yeah, the Zetas are
Right.
good people. They were just trying to save their race, you know. But if a Zeta
Right.
comes here and then there's too much records of them, then that could mess up the timeline. So what we had to do is basically explain to them, look, it doesn't matter what your timeline does. That's not how time works. You guys aren't as advanced as you think you are. Time, what you guys call time, like say for example, if somebody went back in time and prevented the death of Kennedy, everything that still had to happen was still going to happen. The time stream will fix itself. Okay, so the Cuban Missile Crisis, all that stuff, all those things still needed to happen. What you might call a fixed point in time, i.e., like Kennedy's death, is not fixed at all. So the Zetas, they needed to understand that it doesn't matter what happens here, they will still exist. And once we were able to prove that scientifically, everything got better.
Hmm.
The trouble is proving it.
So I think it's a pretty neat picture there on the right hand side of Betty and Barney. But can we talk about vehicles? Are
Oh,
these
yes.
vehicles? I mean, it's cool, but that Travis is sees this thing floating, and him and the boys, seven of them,
Yeah.
see this thing floating above them or near them, and also Calvin, and then Betty and Barney Hill remember eventually this. Obviously, it's some kind of vehicle, I would believe. Are they vehicles, and do we have a lot of vehicles floating out there? Why can't we just see them?
Well, a lot of them are, you might call it cloaked, but they're not really cloaked. They're just sort of outside of space and time. You could definitely call them vehicles, especially with the Nomo, the Tic Tacs. Those are absolutely transit things, i.e., the Tic Tacs are designed to be able to take people from a zero pressure environment to an extreme pressure environment, i.e., the bottom of the Marianas Trench. So they're definitely vehicles. One of the things that humans don't quite get, though, is that they don't move in the traditional sense. There's a very famous incident where they tracked a UFO making it from pole to pole in like 5 minutes. It wasn't moving. Okay, if you could actually see that vessel like up close, right? Like you're touching the outside of it, you would not register any movement. The world, it seemed, would seem to move around you. They're manipulating space. That's why, these millions of light year jumps are no big deal. When you understand the nature of gravity and space and how that interacts together to create what you call time, time travel is easy. Space travel easy, time travel easy. It's all illusion, you know? Kind of like you guys understand how to make the most of arcing electricity. You have all these little gold wires in your computer, and the way the electricity arcs produces different results, and that's basically how computers work. So, what if you could manipulate gravity the same way? That's what element 115 is for, you know?
Okay.
So, it's basically all about spinning gravity and space together. So, yeah, they're vehicles. Yes, they do move within space, but those big, like super distance jumps, that's not a movement at all. You sit down, you don't move anywhere else, and when you get up, the world has moved around you. They have weapons based on this, the whole nine yards. It's an entirely different technological base.
Hmm.
Humans essentially use electricity and combustion as your technological base, like what you might call a molecular technical base. A lot of us have different technological bases entirely. Like our technology, my people, Laryn technology looks like magic to humans. I'm no joke. It looks like I'm waving my arms and woo, abracadabra, but it's not. It's just the movement of forces. No different than your electronics, just different forces, you
Right.
know?
So it's pretty cool that Barney had and Betty put together some illustration of what they saw.
Mhm.
This thing had some lights, and it was an odd shape, and I don't even. They're all odd shaped. Any alien craft that we've sort of depicted in artwork is an odd shape, but this was odder than most, and they're this couple, they're smart people, and it's just odd that this would happen, and if they were to make this up, it would be odd because they had nothing to gain from this. They did write a book later on it and whatever, but
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just really bizarre to me. That whole story, all these stories, but this one in particular because obviously you're gonna two popular people like this, two super smart people, just well dressed, super good looking
Mhm.
people, and then all of a sudden, their lives change overnight because they have this experience that they can't remember, but then through hypnotherapy they were able to, discover this story. So,
Yeah.
so Cass, it's in our brain, but it's locked away somewhere. Where's it locked away?
Generally in your hypothalamic regions, in the back of your head, underneath that little ridge. If you
So
can,
what's any idea in the mechanism that blocks that memory and how that would work and why we can break through that?
well, in their case, it was a matter of, and I'm pretty sure if you were to exhume their corpses, no disrespect, now you would see what I'm talking about. But essentially, what the Zetas do is they'll implant protein blockages in between the neurons, and that it basically prevents memories. But you know, the mind is an amazing thing, and I don't want to, without saying something Star Trekky like rerouting the encryptions. It's not a very hard thing to reroute your memories around an individual neuron, And given their incredible courage, uh, you, I'm sorry, but the Zetas should have expected them to remember. I mean, imagine if you were raised studying humans and you're going along and here in this time of intense fear and alienation and oh, I don't like you because your fur color's weird. Two people that have the courage to defy the entire society, wouldn't they be of interest to you?
Absolutely.
See, people today forget the terror that mixed race couples were under back then.
Well, when you think of that in the grand scheme of things, in archaeological time and in space time, and when we think about the possible diversity of the universe, what a bunch of bullshit. Because what does it even matter? If you have the ability to travel billions of miles in a second or do something extraordinary like that, obviously we can't match that at the moment, but there's things that we can do that are quite remarkable. Yet the shit just stands in our way, and it's effed up. And
Yeah,
I don't know why that is, but you know, I always wondered too why this couple was the focus of this study and um why them.
well, you'd have to
Interesting.
talk to the individual Zetas about that. I have
It's
no idea.
interesting. Yeah,
What
that's
I
a good
know
story.
is that if I had arrived here and I was in the 60s, you better believe I would do everything in my power to protect these people. So I can only assume that that's what attracted the Zetas as well. You know, is that courage?
Right, right. So last night while I was thinking about this show and whatever, kind of looking on the internet, and one of the things that I stumbled across, and I was surprised that the History Channel actually it's not the History Channel, it's history.com, has an interactive map, UFO sightings taken seriously by the U.S. government.
Oh shit.
And it's cool because it shows a map of the U.S. Actually, it shows a map of the world. And because it's not just the U.S., there's very few international ones, but there's one in North Korea. And
Ooh.
UFO encounters sickened soldiers after U.S. troops deployed in North Korea witnessed an odd jack-o'-lantern-like apparition.
I have to wonder if that's the rock apes.
Across a mountain, they experienced a pulsing, attacking blue-green light. One soldier described it as penetrating his body with a burning, tingling sensation. 3 days later, the entire company was evacuated by ambulance, many with debilitating symptoms that lasted for decades. That was May 1951.
Sounds like a radiation attack.
Yeah, it's right on the DMZ. That's interesting.
Yeah, really. There's a species of what you might call Bigfoot live there. They call them rock apes, and they've been witnessed by soldiers since the Korean War, but like modern science hasn't gotten a sample, so they don't believe it. I'm wondering if that has to do with those guys. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. This one. Florida Everglades, August 1952. The Sinister Saucer. So this is 1952, so it's a long time ago. Scoutmaster Sonny Desvergers was driving some Boy Scouts near West Palm Beach when they saw a bright light flash over a palmetto grove. He stopped to investigate and later emerged terrified with burns on his arms and the tail of a 30-foot diameter saucer that had enveloped him in a red mist. Grass in the grove was singed and its roots charred. So we know people, and we talked to one last week who witnessed a rather large UFO, and she witnessed one that was as big as a whole valley near her house. But this is 30 feet, you know. You figure you take an average size house, and which could be 30 feet wide, and then you take the roof of that house and crush it down. You know, there's not much livable space there. It seems like if this is an interstellar travel vehicle, it would require more mass and a bigger body to accommodate many organisms that would, you know, obviously work in unison to keep each other alive.
Well,
For millennia.
Sci-fi would dictate that to be true, but quite frankly, the engines that power these things can fit in the palm of your hand.
Right.
In actuality, in the galaxy, there's not a whole like people in the science fiction community will say, well, that's a fighter class because it's small, and that's a transport class because it's about medium, and that's a capital class because it's got thousands of people in it. The same exact palm-size engine exists in all three of those examples. You know, Bob Lazar's sport model, for example, same exact size engine. You know, as Yoda would say, size matters not. It might seem like would take a huge crew to maintain those things, but depending on the automation systems and the kind of technology.
And Bob Lazar, his craft had these gravitational amplifiers too that were on the bottom. I think there's 3 of them, like big things that move independently. And
one of these days, I want to talk to Mr. Lazar.
You want his phone number?
That's not how my people work. If you want to set up a meeting and like introduce me, I would be happy to.
I'm sure he's not a big fan of me.
No, but etiquette must still be maintained. We are a very ritualized people.
To talk to him, I didn't really use conventional methods where, you know, he knew I was calling. It was like, he didn't know it was me. I want to say hi to my buddy Luis Alberto Bainham. He's in Argentina. I just threw him the link and he says, hey, Cameron, this show isn't available here in Argentina. I'm sorry. He needs a VPN, and fortunately, or unfortunately, I'm not able to provide that or provide an advertisement at this point for like NordVPN.
Well, we could do an unpaid one.
No, we can't.
Oh, my bad.
Well, I don't want to.
Oh,
you know?
Fair enough.
Yeah. get a NordVPN. And Luis, I'll send him that. Have you ever used one?
No, I've heard
Yeah.
about them a lot, but I have not.
I
I
mean, it
can't.
slows things down. So I was really into the free because in the UK, I mean all their broadcasting's free on the internet and whatever you see on TV. Well, most of it. So you can, if you had a VPN, you can watch all that, and it's good news and a lot of good history shows, some UFO shows. It's cool.
All my computer friends endorse them. I don't know how to work them.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, you just you're just using this VPN and you're logging into a website and you're gonna pick it's gonna you could pick one in the UK and it basically looks like you're in Birmingham, England or somewhere.
I wonder how that works for gaming. Ooh.
It slows things down.
Well,
But it
poop.
worked. Well, I mean, if you got a super fast computer, not so much, but you need some powerful internetage.
Right.
Yeah. So let me pick one more. I don't know how much.
Yep.
So
That's the last slide.
so in Montgomery, Alabama. Now I like these older ones, and this is July 24th, 1948. And a cigar-shaped UFO. And I remember hearing about cigar-shaped UFOs when I was a kid. Now, are we looking at the profile of a disc, or is it indeed a cigar shape? I don't know. 2 Eastern Airline pilots flying in the wee hours reported seeing a cigar-shaped aircraft with 2 rows of windows. But after investigators generated a top-secret report, the Air Force incinerated it. Some wonder if the craft was Soviet or part of the rocketry tests run by former Nazi aerospace engineers spirited to the U.S. after the war. Cigar shape.
Well, some of the cigar-shaped ones are real. You can definitely tell if you're looking at a real cigar quote UFO of alien origin. If it doesn't have windows, then yeah, you're probably looking at a NOMO vessel. They, again, as I said before, they have to be able to navigate extremely high pressure. That being said, the Nazis, as well as a number of other governments, tried to replicate that technology. I mean, many of you might have heard of the Glock or the Bell that the Nazis were making. A lot of different governments have UFO-like vehicles, especially I can't remember what it's like the SR something. It's the big triangle one that the United States has.
SR-71 Blackbird?
Yeah. That's a really good example. And then China has a bunch of UFO looking kind of technologies that I can't prove that. The other various Chinese whistleblowers are going to have to, because I don't have any photographs. China and me don't get along. Hi, President Pooh Bear. I'm in his
So,
dreams.
I'm always skeptical when I hear about windows just because I'm like, this just implies that you got a bunch of little aliens, out sightseeing. But to me, I think they're beyond that.
Yeah, pretty much.
What's a window?
Right?
That's cool, but what's a window?
Yeah. Especially if you need to be underwater in star coronas, all that stuff. I mean, that's just a structural weak point for you to explode out into the vacuum of space. Why would you have one?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right. Interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. Oh, it's so interesting talking to you because, I know I'm going to get more, you're going to detail this thing. You're going to crystallize the information for me.
Given half a chance, you damn right. I'm on mission, man. I'm not here to play. My people are at war in your skies. And for those of you who encounter like the council, like he was talking about earlier, or for those of you who have the psychic impressions thereof, I'm the little one with the bent leg and that won't shut up. So,
Yes,
hi. Yeah,
yes,
I'm actually a runt amongst my people. That's the funny part. To you guys, I'm a giant, but to them, I'm a runt.
Yeah. It's Thursday night, and normally we would be doing this on Wednesday night. Again, thanks everybody for joining us. You can catch this show live Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time by checking out my profile on YouTube, or there'll be links on Facebook. And later on tomorrow evening, this show will be updated and the audio portion will be available on podbean.com and everywhere you listen to find podcasts, including YouTube. And the video stream of this will also be on podbean.com. And the more we do this video, I think the better we're going to get at it. I mean, Cass has been doing it for years, but myself, I've been doing it. So Cass, I just texted somebody today, and I've been in radio literally for 40 years, since I was a sophomore in high school.
Wow.
So like right now, about 40 years.
See, to me, that's amazing, given I grew up in the music industry. That whole profession is so cool to me, radio, you know?
You know, I tell stories about when I was in radio, but it's also cliche because you always hear these people talking about it. So it's really not that interesting. But, you know, the interesting part was, you know, my story was coming home at 2 a.m. and weird shit happening to me, you know, and that time of my life, you know, especially when I was you know, 7th, 8th grade through my junior year and beyond, a little bit less. But, you know, there was stuff, and you could look at my website at that's the other website, www.myalienlifepodcast.com. And I have some illustrations I did of some things like the Tic Tac that I saw a couple of years ago, the interstellar whatever battle, the Star Wars battle that I saw, which basically started out as this huge green flash, which was cool because I thought it was some kind of a meteorite and meteor, and that was exploding in the atmosphere. And you know, I looked over to the horizon and I saw all these dots, you know, like a kind of like the flash you see, sort of like somebody takes a picture and there's a flash and you can see stuff, you know, on your retina. But I mean, I'm looking at the actual sky to the direct west, right at the east slope of the Rocky Mountains. We're over there, and I could see these Tic Tac objects. So I don't think they were that far away, maybe within, you know, a few miles or closer. And then, you know, I saw them spiral up into the sky and were gone in another just slight flash, as it seemed to kind of the sky opened up just a little bit. That was cool. And I did a podcast about that, and I love talking about that because that was really cool. And there was a little excitement there, but no fear from me, because I definitely experienced some fear around these times of some of the shit that went on.
Yeah.
And, I contend and guarantee, if you ever want to further investigate, my best friend lives in the house I grew up, and there's weird shit that happens in there. And it has to do with the area around it. I'm not a ghost guy, so, you know, this is like, these guys are using my house for some kind of weird shit, man. What else do you say? I mean, I can't write a scientific paper on it. I have no data, Cass.
Hey, data on this stuff is hard. We have to go off of anecdote.
I mean, it is weird, crazy stuff, you know. And so I jumped ship on Monday, and I did a podcast with a friend of mine. His name's Richard, and his podcast is called Faces of a Nation. And we did a podcast with a lady who is well known in the field of maladaptive daydreaming.
Really? Maladaptive daydream? I've never heard of that.
Well, she sits there, or not, I shouldn't say sits there. She can all of a sudden just be gone and daydream for 6 hours and sort of function. But she said that, you know, it's an ongoing story, a saga that's kind of been going on in her life for, you know, more than, I don't remember how many years, more than 10 years. So the reason I got involved, Richard calls me his mentor, and God bless him. He was interested in podcasting. Somehow he saw me, whatever, I don't know. So we started talking, and I started helping him out a little bit. I teach podcasting at the local community college. COVID kind of messed that up, but it was a year ago. I had a class, a small class. They were keeping the class very small. And something kind of happened with the adult continuing education classes that were being taught by just normal people like me. And kind of the enrollment went down. So a few of those kind of tanked, but it'll pick up again. Anyway, I felt like I was qualified to talk to him about it. I don't think I'm qualified to be a mentor, but if he wants to say it, let him say it. I've talked too much about that already, but anyway, to me, I always wondered if I have this active daydream life that puts me in this state where all of a sudden I'm imagining some stuff happening to me. And the reason why that I would buy into this paradigm is because I don't like the idea of actual aliens fucking with me.
Who could blame you?
Do you wouldn't you rather just, all of a sudden this shit's going on and like, Jesus, I'm hoping I'm in a dream right now, because this sucks.
Yeah. Well, from personal experience, I explored science and physics and stuff to debunk this stuff so I could prove to myself I was just a dude. You need evidence,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just a dude, all right, but I don't like what this dude went through from time to time.
Hell no. But that's why I consider you a hero. You're giving people a voice. Everyone needs to understand this crap is going on.
I really didn't do anything heroic, I'll tell you that, because just frozen, which that's common. People are just frozen. But
in the aftermath, you chose to take a stand.
The terror and the hatred built, and it helped me control the situation a little bit better than others who have laid there and become experiments, guinea pigs, donors, Cass.
Yeah. Genetic donors, yeah. But see, like I said, that's one of the reasons I like people who stand up and act. The planet needs people to stand up right now. What we do not need is an entire species of people going, okay, I guess you can harvest my organs now.
So I made a promise a while back. I have a guy. I'm not going to talk about that because I want us to do a show with this guy. It has to do with organ harvesting. It'll be a good one. And it'll be one of those times like tonight you had no idea what we're going to talk about.
I prefer it that way. Bradley wouldn't let me know what was happening either, if that I'm not prepared and I can still answer these questions. Yeah.
Spontaneous.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we've been rolling about 2 hours. I think that's enough. We don't want to give it all up in one night, as they say.
Like we could. It's too big a subject.
But are you on tomorrow?
Tomorrow morning, yeah. Me and Chris.
What time? And tell everybody about that real quick, please.
Right. Well, we run a show. We actually run several shows on our network on Facebook and YouTube under Bleeding Violin Studios and the Lion, the various names from that. So check out the bleedingviolinstudios.com, and that'll give you everywhere where we listen or where we perform. Whew. So we do a daily coffee show where we talk about current events, whatever ideas come to mind. We'll interview people. It's just a fun show. Bad jokes, worse singing. Actually, I can't say that anymore. I'm accidentally getting good at it. And Kristen's a professional singer. So, but yeah, come see Kristen. See the Pleiadian, man. She's awesome.
Yeah.
So
check out Cass tomorrow. Any information you want to know about this show, just get it at www.myalienlifepodcast.com, Facebook, YouTube, and you can find me on Instagram at the_Cameron_B_Logan. And yeah, some of the things that gets posted on Facebook goes directly to Instagram. I'm not sure why all of it does not, but it does not. It seems to be rather selective. But being that all the shit is becoming owned by one person, I don't even know why it would be a difference. It should just be one thing, make it a lot easier. However,
Overlord Soros.
Americans like a choice. So, my name's Cameron Logan. This is my special guest host again for about the 5th or 6th or 7th time, and his name is Cassidae Lightwing. You could probably Google him and find some. I'd like you to see some old shows with him and Bradley Powers from the UK. That was interesting. I don't get to see your show very much anymore, and the reason why is because that time of day I'm always with people now. I used to spend, in an office all by myself before, and it was always on in the background. I enjoyed that. I miss that. I miss those days. So,
Me too.
Yeah.
Love you, Bradley.
We'll check it out. So good night, everybody, and thank you for joining in. Again, I'm Cameron Logan, along with Cassidae Lightwing. Good night.